obviously all of us have heard some things in the news. I live in Virginia, and there's some big news stories out of Northern
Yeah.
Virginia and school districts and so forth.
Mhm.
And we all hear these stories where, whether it's the, sex roles or the bathroom issues or the CRT or whatever those issues are, and they vary, but where, even hundreds of parents at board meetings and are saying, look, we don't want this, and just massive protests. And yet, they shutting the parents out, and at the end of the day, the board moves forward without support. They just go the opposite direction. So that's part of the dilemma we have, and why so many parents are frustrated. Maybe they've never engaged at their local school, but they hear these stories on the news and they simply throw their hands up and say, it's impossible. I think we have two scenarios for the average person out there. We can say parent, but I think just the average person. One is, look, I try to live my life in good faith, and I want to be trusted, and I want to trust the entities that are out there. So we've got people and processes that are responsible for our education. And look, I don't really know that much about it, so I'm just going to trust them. Okay. That's noble, it's good, but it's not always the best thing to do. It's kind of, I think it was Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. And then, then you have others who simply say, look, I don't trust anybody. And when I hear stories like this in the news where, the parents are, demanding change, and the boards are just looking the other way and moving forward anyway with policy. When teachers are afraid, and I know this to be a fact because I've talked to many of them, they are absolutely afraid because they feel like they are in a box. They can't say anything. They can't do anything because if they push back against things they don't agree with, they're going to get fired. And it's their life, it's their career. Some of these people, especially, it's a major part of their livelihood for their family. So dig into that a little bit with us. I mean, these are all realities, and these are things that, everybody's finding themselves somewhere on this plate. And, where do we go?
I think the big issue, and you've articulated very well where we are currently as a society when it pertains to education. But if you look back to other centuries, there have always been significant tipping points to say, this is a significant issue. In the early centuries, if you were a follower of Christ, it could mean that you would lose your life. What do we do when we confront conflict? Do we lean into it or do we run from it? And I think that's kind of the diverging point. Yeah. And you're right. There are school board situations that they shut the parents down and close them out, and they just march forward in a very obstinate perspective. However, there are other places where they'll vote that school board off and replace them with other people. And you're really one or two cycles away from completely flipping the board. Yeah. They don't have 4 years or a 2-year term is all they have. So it can change, and you can use that opportunity to say, this is what this board is doing. Let's replace them with these people and let's move in this direction. Yeah. That's what happened. I think that's true in so many areas, but I think education particularly, we have so much power that we have run away from. And then we throw up our hands and say, I can't believe we're in the state we're in. Well,
we've been running.
I may not see it all changed in my lifetime, but if I do my part and I can train my children and they can do their part, hopefully we can see things turn. Yeah. Obviously, we know that evil is an attractive force, and it's always easier to track in the direction of evil. It's hard to go against the stream and do the right thing. But if you take the high road, and if you live with integrity, and if you live with values, and you show your faith and you show your morality, I've told my kids, you can debate all you want in the public school system on abortion and all these other issues. But at the end of your conversation, you need to be able to invite that person to church. So being right is important, but being kind might even be more important.
Yeah.
I want to be Christ-like in the delivery of my perspective so that people are attracted to the God that I choose to serve. Not because I'm always right. I'm flawed I'm limited in my perspective, but I want to do the right thing and be consistent, but show it in a way that matters. And at the end of the day, know that I've done my best and didn't run off and try to hide. I feel like our society is such an interesting place right now because the opportunities are huge. The challenges are big, but the opportunities are huge for somebody to stand up with value, with compassion, and address the issues in a way that is, I think, will resonate with the majority of people. I don't think most people agree with a lot of the things that are being pushed right now.
Yeah.
But they don't know how to respond.
Yeah.
We have to be aware. We have to be informed. I think it's a starting point for many of the people who will watch this. Start going to board meetings.
Yeah.
Like Rachel
Don't wait
said,
till a crisis.
right.
Yeah.
Know who your superintendent is, whether your students or your kids are in class there or not. You're still a stakeholder in the community. Be aware of what is happening. Be aware of the dynamic. Get to know the superintendent. I think there are so many ways to build bridges. And then when a crisis comes, you have some credibility to bring to the table and say, from my perspective, I think this would be a good direction. I think that carries way more weight than just blasting people with letters or phone calls and trying to, hammer down when there's a crisis. We have an opportunity to engage and help shape that flow. I have a friend who serves for a company as a marketing individual, and sometimes they get bad press. And his statement to me was, I can't control the blast, but I have to shape it. And we can't control a lot of the components that are happening in our culture right now, but we can help to shape them. So God help us to do what we can.
And get involved early and often. You don't wait until it's a major thing where there's 100 people at board meetings. You can't. You do that, and it's not too late, but it feels like it's too late, and it's so overwhelming at that point. You start when your kid's in kindergarten, and you get involved. You volunteer. You get to know those people. You develop relationships. So then I can call the superintendent right now. Of course, I've been on the board, so that doesn't really count. But really, as a volunteer, somebody who was well known in the district, I walk down the hall and different teachers like, oh, hey, give me hugs as I'm walking down the hall. That's huge, because then when you can say, this is a problem, what's being taught here, I don't want my child to be part of this. And I think that this is they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, because you develop that relationship with them, and they respect you and they appreciate your perspective. That's where it has to start. You can't wait till the big, huge moments.
Yeah, I think that's really critical, what you just said there, because, there's the old saying, people don't know, they don't care how much you know, they want to know how much you care. And it kind of applies to this. It's like if there's an issue and all of a sudden you're a loudmouth on it, it's like, okay, who are you and what holds you pop out of?
Exactly.
But when you are there and people know you, you've built relationships, and they know that you're engaged because you care about them as a teacher, as an administrator, that you care about what's going on in the schools, that you have a heart for its flourishing, then when there are problems, they're much more prone to listen to you because they know you care. So